I'm Jason Epperson. This is RV Miles, and it's time for the latest in RV and camping news. So much news this week, a big reorganization over at the largest RV manufacturer in the world, Thor Industries, a grand design class action lawsuit, a battery manufacturer shuts down, and so much more. We'll get to all of that in a minute. But first, this episode is sponsored by the folks over at eTrailer. If you're buying a new truck to tow with, you're going to want to check out eTrailer.com and specifically their new fitment guides for 2025 vehicles. eTrailer's expert guides help you answer questions like, will my old roof rack work with my new ride? Or how do I make sure I'm ready to tow right away? Transitioning to a new vehicle shouldn't mean starting over with your gear, and that's why eTrailer is ready with 2025 fits for the products you know and trust. Their team of enthusiasts has done the work test fitting your favorite products on 2025 vehicles and creating detailed content to show exactly how it all works. With tailored solutions and real-world insights, they're here to make sure your next adventure starts smoothly. So whether you're already driving your 2025 truck or you're planning ahead, eTrailer's here with the gear, advice, and confidence you need to hit the road without hesitation. Visit the link in the description to head directly to eTrailer's Vehicle Finder to find custom fit accessories for your specific vehicle and more. All right, first up, Thor Industries has announced that it will restructure its Heartland RV subsidiary underneath the better performing Jayco umbrella. Heartland manufactures lines such as Cyclone, Torque, Bighorn, North Trail, Prowler, and their new Cortera line, along with several private label brands like Eddie Bauer, Pioneer, and Mallard that are sold exclusively at different dealership chains, mainly Camping World. Thor is the largest RV manufacturer worldwide, and Heartland is one of 15 or so Thor brands. Heartland previously operated as its own standalone company, but it will now be integrated under Jayco, which a press release said will enhance operational efficiencies and streamline business processes. Bob Martin, president and CEO of Thor, said, quote, through the current down cycle, our company's focused on appropriate brand rationalization and right-sizing their product lineups to meet the current market conditions and customer demands. This move aligns Heartland with Jayco's proven track record of optimized operations, a strong competitive brand offering, and customer service. Heartland has faced recent challenges in these areas, while Jayco has demonstrated consistent excellence in each area. Jayco was acquired by Thor back in 2016, and its brands include the Jayco flagship lines, as well as Integra Coach, Highland Ridge RV, and Starcraft. Ken Walters, president of Jayco, said, quote, there will be no disruption of the ownership experience of current Heartland owners and dealers. We will work with the Heartland customer service team to ensure the same high standards that we provide to our Jayco customers. We look forward to working with key members of the Heartland team to get those brands back where they belong in the market. As a part of the restructuring, the private label brands manufactured by Heartland will be transferred to Dutchman Manufacturing, which is a division under Thor's other subsidiary, Keystone. Keystone already manufactures other private label products like Coleman travel trailers. This is probably the biggest major shift we've seen during this current downturn in RV manufacturing. Another major RV manufacturing brand, Winnebago, and its subsidiary Grand Design RV are the target of a class action lawsuit filed on March 19th surrounding issues with frame failure among Grand Design fifth wheels. The 7 plaintiffs allege that since at least 2020, Winnebago Industries and Grand Design RV knowingly deceived their customers and distributed thousands of defective RVs. The complaint says that Grand Design crafted targeted marketing campaigns that preyed on Americans' dreams of starting a new life on the road and exploring the country safely in one of their very own Grand Design RVs, all in the midst of the once-in-a-century COVID pandemic. However, unbeknownst to the plaintiffs and members of the classes, this dream would soon become a nightmare. The frame that was designed and installed on model year 2020 to 2023 Grand Design RVs was defective and not sufficiently capable of tolerating the weight and stress of typical RV use, often rendering the RVs unusable and/or uninhabitable. The complaint goes on to say that instead of issuing a recall, Grand Design and Winnebago initiated a cover-up and used non-disclosure agreements, misleading public statements, and online censorship to counter complaints about frame failure. Excessive frame flex is a type of frame failure that happens when a frame flexes beyond its specified parameters. Though what we're hearing from most folks about this is not just that Grand Design's frames are flexing out of spec, but also that perhaps at some points they were not attached properly. Both situations could result in damage to the RV. Reports of issues with Grand Design trailers began to bubble up actually slightly before the pandemic, I think. A lot of people think this was a COVID boom related thing. 2020 really wasn't the COVID boom. 2020 model year RVs began to be built in late 2019. And the real boom and the issues with getting parts and materials and stuff like that really happened late 2020, which really kind of moves into the 2021 model year. But regardless, Grand Design eventually acknowledged the issue, downplaying it, and then they extended the warranty period on their frames. They also issued a technical service bulletin to technicians and dealers about the problem. However, the suit contends that that wasn't enough and that a recall should have been triggered. The suit says, quote, a recall would require defendants to notify all purchasers of the defective frame, thereby providing much more appropriate notification to its customer base, many of whom are likely unaware that their Grand Design RVs sit atop frames that are highly likely to fail. Again, that's quoting the lawsuit. I'm not saying that. The suit also alleges that Grand Design frequently censors customers with non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs, saying that some customers report that they've been offered free repairs from Grand Design in exchange for signing one. And the suit says that the NDAs imposed by Grand Design are unique and notable in that they include a clause requiring customers to remove all online posts criticizing the company or its RVs and prohibiting customers from posting critical content ever again. The folks over at RV sales listing website RV Trader have issued a look back at RV pricing trends over the course of last year and found that lower cost models surged in popularity. High-end RVs had a slight increase, while mid-range models struggled, leaving a noticeable gap in the middle of the market. By the way, this could have something to do with Heartland's situation. Much of their non-private label product sits right in that mid-range zone. New RV models in the $100,000 range saw a modest 5.3% increase in sales, while models between $30,000 and $60,000 were down between 16 and 22%. Two bills have passed limiting the voting rights of full-time RVers who use the state of South Dakota as their domicile address. The bills have yet to be signed by Governor Larry Roden. South Dakota is one of 3 states that are commonly used by full-time RVers as a domicile due to the ease of declaring residency there, no state income tax, and long periods between driver's license renewals. Texas and Florida are the other two, though for slightly different reasons. South Dakota House Bill 1066 would require a person spend 30 consecutive days at some point in their life in a single physical location in South Dakota to be legally eligible to vote in the state. Currently, you just have to stay one night to declare yourself a resident and get a driver's license and all that. The other bill, House Bill 1208, would then allow full-time RVers with no physical abode in the state or proof that they'd ever had one for 30 consecutive days to register for a federal-only absentee ballot limited to candidates for president, U.S. senator, and U.S. representative. The governor could sign none, one, or both of the bills in the coming days. Lawmakers have said they're trying to respond to constituents' concerns about undue influence from out-of-state elements in South Dakota elections. It does not appear that these bills will in any way change the ability to become a South Dakota resident for full-timers, but if you want to vote in those local elections, you might need to stay for 30 days straight at a campground somewhere. 2 RVing families have been awarded $750,000 by a jury who agreed that the owner of a Virginia campground discriminated against them because one of the campers was Black. The 2 families had planned to camp together long-term during that first summer of the pandemic at the Lazy Cove campground near Virginia's Smith Mountain Lake in June of 2020. The 2 women who booked the trip were both white. One of the women allegedly got a phone call from the campground's owner, Regina Turner, who, according to a complaint filed with the Virginia Fair Housing Board, said, quote, "You didn't tell me that your friend's husband is Black. Had I known, I wouldn't have rented the lot to them." The interracial couple also had a son with them, 8 years old at the time. Turner allegedly said, "I saw the son, but figured everyone makes a mistake." According to court documents, Turner is alleged to have told another tenant on the campground that she wanted to wait until the lease ended instead of moving forward with eviction, saying, quote, "I can't make them move now because if I give both of them moving notices now, they could take my park from me. I'm smart, and I've got to use my head." The Virginia Attorney General's office and the Virginia Fair Housing Board filed a civil suit against Turner on 1 count of refusing to rent and 2 counts of discrimination. The suit resulted in the families being awarded $100,000 each for their losses, and then the jury also awarded an additional $550,000 in punitive damages. Turner told the Washington Post that even though her late husband refused to rent to Black people, the campground now accepts all kinds of people. But she did admit to placing the phone call, saying she felt, quote, betrayed, not knowing the man was Black. Enduro Power, makers of lithium batteries often purchased aftermarket by RVers, has closed permanently. A post on the company's website said, quote, "After 5 years of building one of the most customer-focused, reliable lithium brands in the U.S. market that was fully U.S. funded, owned, and operated, we've made the tough decision to close."
Unfortunately, we found ourselves in a position over the last 2 years with the market declining drastically and things changing so quick that we've been very unprofitable for a decent amount of time. And it's just, we don't see a trajectory in the space we're at, where we're at, to be able to get through it. And so we've had to make the tough decision to close Enduro Power.
Turning to the continued back and forth over the reduction in federal employees on public lands after 2 judges required the White House reinstate Interior Department employees. We talked about that last week. Some National Park Service workers have returned to work, but more than half of those that were fired have been placed on administrative leave now, while the White House appeals to the Supreme Court to rule whether it has the authority to make the firings, which took place on February 14th for probational workers, which are mostly workers who had less than a year in their current position. Today, the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to halt those rulings. Meanwhile, the Department of the Interior has issued another buyout offer. Last week, early retirement and buyout incentive offers were sent to nearly 70,000 employees, though only some of them will be eligible. Department of Interior employees will have until close of business on March 26th to accept the offers. Those who opt in and are approved must separate by May 31st. Employees will have access to their full retirement benefits before they would otherwise be eligible, and they will have a cash severance of $25,000. The buyout incentive is meant to get ahead of more layoffs that are in the works. That's it for this week's RV and camping news. If you like what we do here, consider becoming a Mile Marker member. It's our paid support community. It's a little bit each month, $7 or $70 a year. It helps us produce this content, and you get some extra stuff like some bonus podcast episodes and more. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Hit the like button if you got something out of this video. Subscribe if you want more like it, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.